Christmas present for people. Good morning, Bethany. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for that plug.
Well, stolen youth is, people right now are looking for things to get, and they're looking for books to get. And I think stolen youth would fit a lot of parents' gift list, don't you?
I do. I do. It's still so relevant. Every day I turn on the TV and I'm like, oh, yep, that I talked about that in our book.
All right. Now, Bethany, you and I often talk about news out of Israel, and the big news out of Israel is that the prime minister talked to the president elect, and there are signs that maybe Hamas finally wants to get out alive. Are you an optimist this week after seeing those reports this weekend?
I am more than I have been. It doesn't. I don't want to say that I am an optimist, but I'm more optimistic than I've been probably in almost a year.
Okay, so what do you put that? Because I don't think Netanyahu would go out there and do a trial balloon unless something was close, right?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing from every side is that they're hoping that a deal is done before the new year. And what that really means is they're hoping that a deal is done before they have to deal with the cowboy coming in on January 20th.
And the cowboy is going to send Israel every kind of weapon that it wants. So they really,
Yep.
Hamas does have an incentive to giddy up and get out, right?
Yep.
That's what they could be offered. The ones who remain could be offered a trip to Tehran. Do you think they want that?
I mean, they're genocidal maniacs, and who knows what they want because they're subhuman. But one would think they would want to get out alive and not meet the same fate as Sinwar. But who knows? I mean, they're lunatics.
And they're Sunni, so they probably don't want to go to Tehran. Maybe they'll go to Turkey. We'll see. Second thing I want to ask you about, Dan Senor does a podcast, Call Me Back. He had on an expert, a new expert this week, a guy named Raz Zimmit, who is a specialist on Iran. And the proposition is that Iran is tottering. Do you believe that, Bethany Mandel?
I think that I do. I mean, first of all, I trust who Dan Senor trusts. He's brilliant, and his podcast has been indispensable over the course of the last 437 days. But none of the experts seemed to believe that Syria was on the verge of collapse. But every single one of these proxy states that Iran was propping up have fallen like a house of cards. So I don't see why Iran itself would be any different.
Why would Israel not strike Iran right now? They don't care what Blinken and Sullivan think, and they doubt that Joe Biden has a coherent thought. And they know that Donald Trump doesn't like foreign wars, but the pathway is open. Syria's air defenses are gone. Why wouldn't they do it?
Yeah, I mean that I think that we might be watching them take those steps right now. They've completely decimated Iran's or not, I'm sorry, Syria's capabilities, military capabilities. The explosions that we saw over the weekend were they looked shocking, and the nuclear like cloud that went up over Syria, you think thank God that they didn't have those capabilities. A lot of people are criticizing Israel and saying, this new Syrian government, they didn't do anything. Why are you preemptively striking? Well, we know who they are. They are affiliated with ISIS. They're affiliated with Al Qaeda. We don't need a wait and see approach on these folks.
Have
Granted,
we
they
heard
are.
has any American political figure criticized Israel's strikes on Syria? I'm unaware of anyone reaching that level of stupidity here. There's a UN guy from Norway who's out there
Right.
complaining about Israel blowing up chemical weapons, but he's from the UN. That's his job is to be stupid. But has any American been stupid?
Not really. I mean, I've been seeing criticisms from like the Mehdi Hassans of the world. I've been seeing a lot of criticisms from opponents of the Assad regime saying, it's the dawn of a new day. How dare Israel start out on this foot? I've seen criticisms from the Australians. I mean, the usual suspects internationally. But I think that a lot of Americans understand that, we did not replace a good guy here.
Yeah, and we do not want whoever, we don't want to roll the dice on weapons of
Yeah.
mass destruction. By the way, weren't you under the impression that Barack Obama announced that the Russians were getting rid of all the chemical weapons in Syria?
I mean, I was also under the impression that there was a red line. There's lots of impressions that Barack Obama gave to us over the course of his presidency that turned out to be nonsense.
Okay, it's a quick exit question, Bethany. the Democratic National Committee had their holiday party last night. How awful of a gathering do you think that was?
It must have been pretty dour, honestly. It's good that you called it a holiday party and not a Christmas party. It was very respectful of you. Um, but I mean, what holiday is it, do you think?
I
What
am
res-
going to play for Jim Garrity. We don't have enough time, Bethany. I'm going to play the vice president's remarks. Honestly, it could have been like what they used to do in ancient Rome before anyone went into the bathroom and just got into the warm bath, because it was that bad. And so
Oh,
I hope you have a
bless
happy
your heart.
holiday. Do you have holiday celebrations this week? Is it Hanukkah this week or is it next week?
It's actually, weirdly enough, it falls on Christmas this year.
Bravo! I finally get the
Yeah.
calendar right. Well, then, happy Hanukkah to you. I will probably not talk to you next week. We will find out as we go. Bethany Mandel can be followed on X at Bethany Shondark, and you ought to do just that.